Good to see you, hang out with you always. This was one of the live streams that I probably have been thinking all year, literally. And at the same time, like, was completely rushed around a little bit this morning. But like, really, I've been sitting here like for hours, but been putting my thoughts together and like trying to organize these ideas, like how I'm going to communicate that it will capture how utterly um, I am sorry if this is lagging a little bit. It looks like it is on my side. Hopefully it's not too bad because there's very little I can do. Just pause for a little sip of coffee while it sorts. Yeah, we're gonna have to do our best, right? Like that's all we. I feel like that's a really beautiful, overarching for the energy that we're in right now, as far as like this Capricorn full moon that's coming up. There are absolutely things in this world that we do have control over, and there's a lot, most of it, that we don't have a single bit of control over. And sometimes things don't work the way that we think they should. Like, I want to live stream. Why isn't my internet like, picking it up or whatever? But at the same time, like, the outside things, like the things that go in that pile of things that we cannot control, that like are not under our control. I know for me personally, I spent much time in my life, like the first 25 to 30 years, like, and fighting with those external pieces that are not part of what I can control. Meanwhile, mostly ignoring the parts that are within my control, until, like I said, like 5 or 6 years ago, I found my way through suffering, through like a breaking point in my suffering where I basically was like so miserable, so in pain that I said, like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to feel like this anymore. So, whatever you have for me, universe, like, lay your cards on the table because I want to feel better. I'm ready to feel daily self-care journey me to where I am today. It's like created the path and the vehicle of, where I am today and where I'm headed. Like that daily self-care practice is the core of my life at this point. Like the way that I take care of myself. And that is essentially what we're going to talk about for the Capricorn full moon. Um, Capricorn is an intensely capable energy, like, can do anything that you can visualize inside your mind. You can do it. Capricorn energy can get you there. And we all have Capricorn energy somewhere in our charts. So we all have this level of capability, this ability to do anything we set our minds to. That's not something that some people have and other people don't. That's something we all possess. And on the Capricorn full moon, I wouldn't be surprised if each and every one of us are setting our bit different, whatever works best for us. And that's what, some really grounded, practical pieces that will hopefully help with getting the most, harnessing the most that we can out of this Capricorn full moon that we'll be diving deeply into. But also, just in general, I want to talk about like new moons and full moons, the cycle that we're moving through each month, um, to really connect the dots in a way that hopefully empower, tune in to these opportunities like a month with the new moon and the full moon, and capture this energy and to use it to our advantage. Somebody was asking me here recently, kind of newer to astrology, and spent a good chunk of time diving into their own chart, but not at transits yet. And so was just kind of asking, like, does that give you? And personally, I think the moon do. And from there, the new moon and full moon start to be so natural that you're just naturally in my experience, there was a natural readiness to be ready to handle more. Yeah. My connection is unstable. Please wait while we try to read everybody. I hope the connection's okay. Like I said, there's very little I can do about it. This is very powerful energy, so I'm not surprised that my connection is unstable. Stabilize because I do maybe even too badly want to communicate like the hugely rich potential of this energy. I've been saying a lot lately that this is fertile energy. This is time. This is fertile time. This is like a fertile time in human history. Big here, what we're doing in our own individual lives, what we're doing as a collective, it's a fertile time. And how do those leaps forward happen, right? Like in the collective, how do we evolve and grow as a collective? It happens through individuals. Individuals are the ones where the mutations take place. So individuals finding their power, individuals waking up to the your reality that you have and can exercise on a day. Those individuals that are living like that will get the attention of the individual that yet by the outcomes, by the results in the face here personally is the ability to see stress as a challenge and not a threat. It's like, are you able to be a stronger and groundedness? And that is built day by day through self-care. I know. Yeah. It is going to get through. What's meant to be is going to get through. The experience that we're having is exactly the right experience that we're meant to have in this moment. That this is the experience that has we can do that. We as individuals can do that, right? Like society doesn't have to be different. Society is going to be what it be. It's an average. And the only way the average moves is if more and more and more and more and more individuals are happier and happier and happier. They're the average up. So you don't influence by pointing your finger at society and wanting society to be different. You change, not to like no pressure or anything, but like with the choices that you make moment to moment to moment to moment, how you choose to treat yourself, mind, the way you talk to yourself, you're impacting the world with those thoughts. Like this is such powerful energy. The sun in Cancer, the moon in Capricorn. This will take place, let's see here. Wrote down all the dates except for it's Wednesday, June 13th of 2022 will be the Capricorn full moon. So that's when we'll have the sun in Cancer in Capricorn. And the combination of opposites, they're always the thank you, Starseeds rising. I was just okay, yeah, you've now put me off tangent. Thank you so much because I was looking into starseed things yesterday and was like taken on a galactic adventure, let's say. Um, um, and specific, you know, that there are all of these different kinds of souls. That indigo souls specifically, this is what I took from it, are here to hold the new. that like they're change makers settle for the old, saying like, nope, not good enough. I'm not going to conform because I don't believe I is. I'm, the indigo souls is very strong and capable of fighting against the status quo to hold the frequency of the new in the midst of chaos and judgment and other people not agreeing with what you're choosing, other people, Pollyanna paradigm, they get to think whatever they want. But the value of this frequency of the new is substantial, causing these old paradigms to crumble, creating the it's like all of it, traces back to this idea of we don't impact society by shouting things at society. Society and civilization by the choices that we make in our own experience. And this Sun in Cancer season, every single year, is always going to be a great time to really reflect inside of ourselves about how well are we taking care of ourselves right now. We each have a battery. You can picture, I was explaining it the other day, I cracked myself up. We each have a battery, just like, on your cell phone. You plug it into the charger and you can see that it fills up to 100%. And then when you unplug it from the charger and you use it, it goes down and down and down. And then it starts giving you notifications. It's like 15% remaining, percent remaining. And then it'll turn itself onto like power save mode and turn off half your features to try to conserve power to last as long as it can. And eventually it will turn its just, and when you're powered down because there's just turn the phone back on. There's a chunk of time to elapse while you spend time charging. And, like most of us in today's day and age, we understand our cell phone battery. The last 15% lasts us. Our phone, we're like, oop, I need to get on a charger here within the next 20, 30 minutes, whatever. Meaning I would just charge right through. Eventually it's like, oh, and then I power down and then I'm mad at myself, beating up on myself because I can't hack it. I can't keep, it takes the mystery out of it completely. Like when you're down, means you're not as nice to other people. You have little patience understanding what you're trying to communicate. No extra energy to invest. Power save mode. Like we all get on power save mode sometimes, and that's a sign that like you're almost a powered down mode. So maybe at some point you need to retreat and get yourself plugged into a charger and like build your energy back up. Energy on the zodiac is basically this territory of the battery of Starseeds Rising, says Julia Ballas. I don't know how you say her last name. I've even heard now. But yes, she is who I found. She's who I was listening to. It was through an astrologer that I had already found. Her name is Heather Ensworth, and it was on her channel. And they did an interview together, and that took me to Julia's channel. Really spread out in the Starseed space yesterday. It was amazing. Sessions, Starseeds Rising. You're one of her practitioners, like meaning you've taken her courses, I'm assuming, and like certified in her methods. I may be interested in a session, possibly. That's kind of weird to solicit a session out of somebody in my chat. As of yesterday, like I'm very curious. I was looking at how the fixed stars aligned with, trying to pinpoint, are there any star systems that are like really lined up with my energy? A few. Not that I know anything about where to take that information or what to do with it, but I would definitely be interested in talking to you or checking out your offerings. So my email is owningauthenticity@gmail.com. You are more than welcome to put your email in the chat and I will reach out to you. So that's cool. The starseed stuff, my Capricorn full moon manifestation of like celebrating how far I've come. So, what is that? Oh, amazing. So, the full moon in Capricorn is, like I said, opposites. The sun would be in Cancer, the moon would be in Capricorn. And I was listening to this book on Audible that is a free Audible book. I had like totally, if you are signed up in Audible or more or whatever, there's two in that I would highly recommend by the same author, Valerie Tejeda, I think is how you say it. And then it's like this. And Self Care by the Moon. And the second one is Self Care by the Signs. Self care perspective on Capricorn energy, self care perspective on the full. And I feel like her description, Valerie, in this Self Care by the Moon audiobook, full moon energy has ever clicked in for me. I felt a little bit like a parrot to you guys, like month after month, like, oh, the full moon. This morning, I feel like I actually got it, and it was thanks to Valerie. So I highly recommend you check that out if you're at all interested. Maddie put her page on Audible. Thank you so much. I haven't looked to see if she's. I I would assume she has something there, but I don't know that for sure. Anyways, so in the Self Care by the Moon, the full moon chapter, she summarizes the full moon as a time of celebration, a time of how far I've come, how proud I am of myself for how far I've come. And this is where I wanted to like, uh, it's like, the full moon is celebrating how far I've come since the new moon, since the new moon intentions that I planted, I made and now I'm celebrating on the full moon. But it's like, within 1 month cycle, 129 cycle, we have a new moon, like this time, new moon in Cancer, and then full move into Leo, and we'll have a new moon in Leo, moon in Virgo, full moon in Pisces. So there's how far have I come since the new moon? Like, 2 weeks is not a long time at all. However, 6 months is plenty to be able to see some kind of improvement. I would imagine it gets a lot easier to be able to give yourself some credit for some improvement if you're looking back. Capricorn New Moon that was January 2nd of this year. Sun in Capricorn goes over New Year, the January 1st New Year. If you're in, it's like Gregorian calendar or something like that. Different New Years or whatever. But anyways, the January in the middle of Capricorn season. So this year, the Capricorn New Moon happened to be on January 2nd of 2022. And that is seeds and intentions and got imaginative, take better care of myself. And then whether we realize it or not, we launched intentions about what do I need to do, like physically speaking, structurally speaking, in my life to make sure that I am taking this better care. It back to the Capricorn new moon that was 6 months ago, and then think moon that's July 13th coming up this next week. How far have you come since January? Like how much progress have you made to take better care of yourself? What have you realized? What have you changed in your priorities? That you say no to certain things so that you can say yes to other things? Chances are you have come at least some distance, even if it's only been just recently. And so the full moon is a time of celebration. It's a time of giving yourself credit, pausing on the climb up the mountain to like look back down and see, crap, look how far I came. Wow, I'm really easy to just be like 80 years. But like once it was, and because we have come so far, right? Like it's almost like an emotional harvest of sorts. Like, the new moon is like setting the intention, like launching the thing. In between is like actually steps, like, the first phase out from the new moon is the waxing. We have the first quarter and we're making moves and like taking steps, and full moon, it really truly is a party. It's like that was one of my favorite that she made in her full moon chapter that like really helped it sink in for me, because this has always been something I'm like, what? That's not how I understand manifestation. Because they like a word that gets tossed around is manifestation. And she's like, she clarified a time to manifest. Like we're not sitting right now. It's a time of like high energy, full light. You are the intentions that you launched back with the new moon, and then how far you've come, allowing yourself to shine that light is what the full moon is all about. The full moon is also an opportunity, like we said, like once a month to pause and do a moment of reassessment. Like, the new moon is the launching of lights on what even is the destination, where we backtracking, what is the path between here and there? How are we going to? And these full moon celebrations are, one, yes, celebrating how far we've come. And then two, taking it as an opportunity for a moment of reassessment that looks great. Two, what do you, that question is not what do you need to change, but what do you want to change? Because this is going to be something I'm going to get into more as far as like intentions. What is the point of setting intentions? For here, just suffice it to say, for you feeling into like what would be better, what do you want to change. Number three is are no longer working for you, they don't suit you, they're more draining your energy than adding to your energy. Number four is a renewed intention for moving forward. So given what you want to change, now what is doing it this way, but I'm clearing this like this, so now I'm on this path, now I'm going forward, I'm back to my celebration, and that's sandwich of like celebrate at the beginning and the end, and in the middle reach the path, the intention. What's the point? What am I trying to get out of this? Intention for what? Like what even is, and a very, very, very they're a tool for helping ourselves feel better. I love that. Feel better. And that's a really important thing to understand, because setting intentions is super important. Our energy towards what it is that we want to create, but also we are not chained to our own intention. So if you set an intention and it takes you a mile down the road, you hit a full moon and you're in your phase, and you just don't want to do it exactly, but I am going to move it over to here and I'm going to keep going this way instead of that, is totally possible. In the first place is to help you pausing and reassessing while we're in our full moon, is to help us better those changes that we're the ways we're doing things. That's just, we're not obligated to carry through on our intentions. They're just to orient us. It feels better. Oh, I loved that. I seriously, so freaking helpful. So I like stories of I have two full moon stories. So the first, very practical and all very very clarity, because it has to do with this live stream, like the fact that this live stream my 27th Friday. So it's my first Friday in the second half of this year. So that's super exciting. This live stream born on the Capricorn New Moon on January 2nd, 22. And that is when I set my intention that every Friday I'm going to do this live stream. I'm going to at 10 a.m. Central Time every talk about astrology transits. And I spent all day that day, 8 or 9 hours worth on January 2nd, like going through and picking out 3 trends that were like timely each week, the whole year. Like I looked at the day by day for the whole day and like got my mind out for the whole year. So it felt I can totally do this. Like that of I can totally do this. And then the fact that you never give up means you can do it. And the only way that I have gone through the 27th Friday is because I changed the initial intention different times. I've shown every Friday, yes, but changed my style. I've changed to make it easier, to make it feel better. The only way that I've survived this long in the streak is because I've changed it to make it. So the intention is only there to help you feel better. And that's where I want to take it one step deeper as far as, yes, on the Capricorn Moon, I gave this vision of doing this Friday. However, it matter. The new moon part of it is like, you're not just launching, you're not just having random is random about how all of this is working out for you. It's at the new moon is how could I be taking even better than I already am? Be meeting even better than I already am. Right? So that's the question on the new moon is how could I take my self-care up a notch, basically. And then on the full moon, we see how far we've come, we reorient, we go. But on the new moon, like that's the question is how could I be taking better care of myself? And the reason I started this live stream actually had nothing to do with astrology and everything to do with time. Because in August of 2021 was when I officially stopped. I like had fully transitioned it to the new stuff, and I didn't have to be there anymore. So 24/7, I was for have anywhere to be at any time, and I lived like that for August, September, December, and I can tell you about 24/7 is that it's extremely disorienting. It's like I was losing track of time. Like there it was like it felt like a couple days had passed and it had been a few, and it was like there was no marker on the high show me how far I had gone because just open-ended time as far as I could see. And it was like how crazy because I've been working 24/7 freedom for years. That's like been my goal. That's been the I've been trying to manifest. And in January of decided that 24/7 freedom is not for me in my week. I need something where like stone. It's a grounding force to like pull me into reality and like help me measure 7 days to 7 days to 7 days. Otherwise, like it all just becomes of like a homogenized ocean of I don't have any sense of time. And it was like really starting to freak me out. So my need was to ground myself in reality just a little bit. I was feeling untethered. I was feeling like my sense of time was vanishing. Like once a week that I show up to, and I like live streaming, like maybe I'll just like live. How it began was I need reality because I'm floating and it's uncomfortable. And I need this grounding. So what does that I'm already doing that would be fun to like take it to the next level so and win? And that was where the win-win of it was at that time. I had already been basically keeping up with the transits for like months at that point and was getting a good handle on it. I had done, taken my own advice like back in the day, starting with tracking new moon and the full moon, like kind of looking at the energy of the new moon for those, looking at the energy for the full moon of that week or two, and eventually able to keep track of like, oh, Mercury's in Cancer, Mars is just one piece and get just in my own for fun kind of practice. And so I'm like, that would be super fun to get on there once a week and talk. Like, here's what I learned about astrology transits this week and astrology and Capricorn. And I sat down and like did the thing where you figure out a path actually going to get there. And I pulled out 3 transits a week and made my little sheet. One of the main transitions that I've made, what is this for? Because my original intention was to every Friday. But my original intention was to ground myself back into reality, which basically all I need for that is to show up on Friday. That doesn't have anything to do with 3 transit, no transits. Moved towards like, usually I cover like 1 transit, or if they're like sign, maybe we can talk about a couple, but doing 3 my life harder, not easier. And the point of intentions is to make us feel better. So rather than continuing down this path of like, nope, I said I was going to cover 3 transits, I made a plan. I'm not tied to that. This is heavy. This is research. It's too much to explain. Like those initial live streams I did, they were like almost 3 hours long. No interaction with the chat whatsoever because it was just information overload. And, you know, even that, my initial reaction is that teaching wasn't super subject at a time is plenty. You don't need to do a deep dive like all in one go. But at the same time, it was almost like 98% because I want it to be easier on myself, and like 2% because it's like, oh, and that'll let them absorb more, hopefully, versus trying to spread it out and do more. So that's the Capricorn is like January 2nd, 2022, asking ourselves, what could we be doing to take even better care of ourselves? And then that Capricorn side of like, we're not, in the Capricorn chapter where it's like Capricorn doesn't say XYZ. That will never come out of like dominant Capricorn energy. That's just not how they think about it. They're going to say, here's my plan. Here's the path that I can go around an obstacle. I will figure that out when I get there. Things is their resourcefulness. Notice that's not like, I just want to point that out. Like, I think it is maybe a type of intelligence problem and then find all the possible solutions. Like, how are we going to? Capricorn is extremely capable, like Capricorn energy is represented by the sea goat, which is not a real creature, half sea animal and like sea lion kind of thing, and it's got like a tail, like a flipper tail kind of thing, and then half mountain goat. And the idea is that Capricorn energy can traverse any terrain it comes across. Like it can swim to where it needs to go, it can climb unclimbable mountains. Pictures of the goat like standing on the side of like what looks like a slope, like a clean slope just up and down, and the goat is like standing there like, what? I found a step. I climbed up here. What? It's not that hard. Like Cap. So yeah, like there's always a way to get to destination, and then I'm willing to wind and weave and get there because of that Capricorn determination and not wanting to give up. So the next example, this is super fun. So the Virgo was the next one that really sticks out to me, for me personally, where again, you're celebrating how far you've come on to like be of service from where I stand today. I don't think like it was just so crystal clear in that moment. It was like growing before I'm ready to be of service right now. Like, yes, if I learned more when I'll know more and I'll be of better, greater service. But right now, I already have enough service in the way that I'm trained to the level that I'm trained right now. I've already come so far. Like I am so how far I've come. I'm ready to share the tools in my toolbox that have impacted me so greatly. And as I was like really basking in this energy of like, gosh, I'm just so ready to be, which another piece of that, which was really interesting, had to do with Maddie at the time. Like I don't know, it was maybe like a month or a couple months before that, we had had a conversation about like, if you're going to start a business, like what are the first, just couple steps, like starting a mountain that you're going to climb. But like, if there's just like one or two, I shared with her like what I would think are the first couple steps and process. And basically at the Virgo full moon, it was this a seed and in two steps. But in my seed germination, like so much came around how you would get going, how you would handle the adversity that guaranteed to cross your path when you're in business for yourself. I would want to teach them about this. I would want to teach, and it was like I was writing the course in my head, and I start writing it down, and I, make an outline. I made a skeleton basically of like some different buckets module where I would want to talk about building confidence. And here's the I talk about this and like just even creating that was so huge. I mean, it was a download process of like all of this. Like basically it was a giant inventory of celebrating how far I've come. Like what are the things that I've already learned and gathered that I could absolutely share with others to be of service in their experience. So the celebrating how far I've come was a download of here for this group program. And it it was so amazing because the download came 8 course or like 8 modules to it, plus here's how I want to market it, here's how I want to like roll it out. Plus, meanwhile, this and like using my idea wall or whatever, and full in the room of energy of like the people who already energetically connected to this program. It was like the download of the material came connection to the people who are going to find value in being of service in this way. And it was like even just with the idea, with the I want to do this, I want to be of service in this way because I can, because there was already like tapping into this lineage of like to pay it, like take everything I've learned and like pass it on to the next guy. The next guy doesn't have to go and learn it from 40 different people. Like is what I got and like give it to you. And I just was like, how valuable it's going to be. And I could feel like energy larger than life of the people who like were sitting in their own moments, like being activated in their own desires of basically like what I could feel that they were going through in that moment was having the same to be of service. I want to be of service. And then almost, I don't know how. I like literally don't know how. But like you're gonna have to help me like figure out like, but like what, how do I actually do it? And that I'm like literally sitting in there feeling like their desire writing the modules, like just writing the ideas of like, here's my to this energy that came with it, this whole package thing. Um, and so now this next week, the Capricorn full moon. So July 13th is the Capricorn full moon. Again, we are meant to celebrate how far we're taking this moment to pause in our seeking of anything, sit and be and take stock of how far we've come compared to 6 months ago. How good, how into own personal needs compared to 6 months ago. A very recent change, even if 2 days ago something clicked. Finally get it. I need boundaries. I deserve to feel better than this. Like, even if it's 2 days ago, like, feel better off today than you were 6. So to find any reason to celebrate miles of how far basically, like, what happened to me on that Virgo full moon, I gave myself credit, like, looking back and being like, "Here I've come." of a sudden I felt so empowered, like not anxious at all about how, I mean, I got anxious later about how it was going to be received, but that day while I was having this awesome download, I wasn't anxious at all about how it was going to be received. It was so genuine of like, I have, can teach it, and I want to show up in that way, and then the Capricorn full moon, so celebrating the structures year. Again, looking back to where you were in January of this year, maybe looking back even to July of last year and taking stock of how have you your world so that you are than you used to be. And again, it could be teeny tiny to be celebrated. And really like that moment of assessment that is kind of in the celebration sandwich, the moment of recalibration for, and especially for the Capricorn full moon, where we do with those earthly structures of our world, ourselves like moving forward, you need to say no, some energy to this thing, and going forward, I need to back to myself so that I have it to work with to invest in what I truly want. And on the backside, what do you want to say yes to? Just being mean and like being and cutting off other people for no, because F you and go whatever. It's like I'm saying no, it's not personal because I need this. Like that's that sign of being able to like feel for yourself. Like what lights you up? What gets you excited? And in order to prioritize that, what do you need to stop investing your energy in so that you have it to spend elsewhere? Pause here and roll through the chat real quick. And then I have some reminders out of Hada's 2 books for full moon, new moon, Capricorn, and Cancer, because, yeah, just for fun. To you guys all. Irene, hello. I knew that you were a Cancer rising, Capricorn descendant. Saturn in Cancer, about 7 planets and asteroids in Aries. Aries and Cancer square each other. Somebody's honking. And Cancer square each other, and they are both signs, and squares get things moving. Cardinal gets moving. So Aries wearing Cancer, I would imagine, is a very proactive energy. And like that's a really positive you like in your energy is intense restlessness, like an intense inability to just, so yeah, it's like, but restlessness, even in its discomfort, is divine. It's, you wanted a fire under your ass, Cancer, so that it would like come to a head, it would butt heads, and it would constantly pull back and forth to like make you do both of them, make you integrate both of them. I heard the other day somebody was and oppositions. It's like those souls intended for their experience to give them and experiences to be able to integrate all of the zodiac archetypes, to be able to experience wholeness and true balance, like sextiles and like harmonious astrology. It can be easy to think that like you only want those good aspects, and I disagree. Personally, I think the best are the oppositions and the squares, because again, like that is pushing like an evolutionary force that like is not going for anything less than what you were born. And again, I think that's great. Trines and cells and those harmonious supportive elements can be really dangerous when you get stuck there. Now you're enabling your own bad behavior because there's just a little too much harm. I think like the squares can be super helpful. Irene, I'm pretty sure that's the one I saw. Heather Ensworth's last video. Yes, Julia. Oh, I see. Yes, Starseeds. Yes. Oh, yeah, I am like so brand new to the whole idea of starseeds, but it has definitely been activated yesterday and then apparently again today. Capricorn is empty on my chart, second house, sun, moon, Cancerian. So how to work with Cap. Interesting. So if you have the sun and the moon in Cancer, you're a new moon baby. A Cancer new moon baby. Raven, I'm curious if you're still here. Like, is your sun or moon at a higher degree of Cancer, if that makes sense? So, like, is the sun or the moon later than the sun? Like, did the new moon already happen when you were born, or did it happen right after you were born? On your birthday. Yay. That's exciting. Yeah, so like a full moon, like highlighting all of those Cancer placements, like the sun in Cancer is such a full moon in Capricorn. Like you cannot have the sun being in Cancer, is extra aware of what it needs. And the full moon in Capricorn, again, a look back structurally, Capricorn, able to rate how far have you come. Draven, I would say like how to work, like takes of the structures that you've built life for yourself, for your needs to be met and taken care of. So like the relationship structures that you invested in and put into place, the personal hobbies invested in and put into place, the creative you've invested in and put into place, physical choices about how you time, the structures that you're creating that add up to your needs being really well served. This is a great time to again like take stock of how have you personally built a life that is conducive to your self-care. So with that, I would imagine kind of a Virgo full moon, it's like you can truly light up like how much you have, like the sun and the moon, Mercury in Cancer, like a soft crab on the inside of your shell, right? And as Mercury in Cancer, the ability to metaphor, music, truly communicate the magic, especially like a Cancer just had. It's like all about like this soul infusion, really pointing yourself towards like, I want to feel good. I want to manage my emotions. I want to make sure my battery is fully charged because Cancer are some of the most tenacious people, Cancer sons, with that heavy, intense Cancer energy because they care so much about the things that they're passionate, the things that are valuable to them, the things that are part of their family inner circle. Um, and a need, like a survival need, an evolutionary need to have a fully charged battery. You care about a lot of things that you want to take care of, then you yourself that you can get into the Cancer shadow is you just stop taking care of yourself because you're so busy taking care of everybody else. But you can't be surprised when you have to power down when your phone dies because it's been showing you 15, 13, 12, like the bang. You can see that. And so every do have to charge ourselves. And the way that we charge ourselves, that's what we're taking stock of on this cap. It's like, what are you saying yes to that really supports you? What have you eliminated because it drains instead of supporting your energy? Um, in the chat, that's what I was doing. Collective consciousness is awakening to the galactic connections we all have. Yes. Collective consciousness is awakening to things, to a lot of things. I personally think that Neptune and Pisces has of a fuse within collective consciousness. Neptune has been in Pisces for years at this point. Let's see, maybe like 11 years. Maddie can maybe tell us what year Neptune entered Pisces. I was looking at it the other day because Neptune enters Aries. And I was looking back at the last time Neptune entered Aries. Neptune entered Aries the day after, like, yeah, the Civil War. The if you're in the South, the war of the Northern aggression, the war for state, the war to abolish slavery, the war where we're officially ready to fight. We're ready to stand abuses of humanity. It's no longer acceptable. And that came about at the end of Neptune in Pisces, right? Like the war started on the last day of Neptune being in Pisces. Chiron at that time had also just changed signs, like right before they moved, I think, out of Capricorn into Aquarius. I'm wanting to make like a whole video on going into Aries, probably sooner than later, just because like historically big shift in the tides. But yeah, Neptune, I mean, I had my whole spiritual awakening Neptune in Pisces within the years. Like so many people in it are awakening, and I think it's because Neptune in Pisces is responsible for like thinning the veil between physical and non-physical. And it's like more people than ever have the ability to feel for themselves the interconnection of all life, all animal life, all insect life, the planet is alive, like consciousness on all levels is connected in Pisces. That for we spend like getting the veil thinned, getting to have the turned up on the non-physical to be able to do it for ourselves. It's like, I mean, yeah, back to the 18, when the Civil War began. And actually, let me just look, because if I can find the page easily, I'm going to just like have those dates in here. I was a couple of days ago. I can find it. Oh, here we are. Yeah, so one and Neptune moved 61. And you think about like the Civil War, where there were finally enough people who felt strongly enough that they knew for sure that just because your skin is black does not mean that you're less. Like I'm Neptune and Pisces, that go round, it was like, no, I'm pretty sure we're all equal. Feel that like we're all the same consciousness. Like watching slavery from that perspective, feeling, if you're watching it from the outside, like you're not in the experience of this. I think humanity on that level was recognizing that like it's not even possible perpetrate aggression onto without energetically like it leaving back onto yourself actually. And this time, that takes Neptune like 160 years, 164 years or something like that. So like 1860, the last time that Neptune Pisces. And here in the last couple years of Neptune going through Pisces, and we've had this massive consciousness of more people being able to feel the of all life on this planet, and the increase in generates. And that Neptune as a planet like shows us our spiritual path, and Pisces as an energy absorbing the energy. So it makes sense that while Neptune is in Pisces, Neptune is also the modern ruler of Pisces. Archetypes overlap a good bit. It makes sense that we were in touch with this feeling of interconnectedness. And then Neptune moving into Aries, the spiritual path into Aries, the sign of the warrior, the sign where we fight for what would be true in the moment. That makes sense that, we would take all of this feeling, this personal experience of the sanctity of life, the interconnectedness of all beings, and then we would fight in terms of the dates and the fact this little in front of me the other day as I was studying the Capricorn full moon. It was very interesting to realize that like we are on a home stretch that historically speaking has echoes of the same home stretch that led. There were very much two sides. There was the old paradigm where people were allowed to treat other people as subhuman. And then there's the new paradigm where we're all equal as subhuman. There's only human and we're all the same. And on the eve, like we're having at it. Like you can't treat people like this. Like I'll throw my life on the line to tell you, you cannot treat people like this. This is worth dying in a civil war. So I just, you just gotta wonder what's coming. Pisces in 2011. Interesting. Definitely. So it's been 11 years. And 2011. Time for me. How entertaining is it to watch somebody sit stream? I finished school and moved to Texas and began the job where I would like because of the job and the relationship I had through the job eventually led to my spiritual awakening and leaving that job to become an on and on with like the path unfolding to where I am now. And so for me, I'm like an earth energy person to the point where the only way that I was going to give up on trying to build it in the earth energy realm is to have my resourcefulness exhausted, to have my determination exhausted. And that's essentially like I was a workaholic. I had relationships that brought out the point of the suffering was unbearable. And because I was trying my experience by controlling the external factor, controlling my internal self, my internal world, whatever, anymore. I can't do it like this. And that's when I found Abraham Hicks. That's when I found like emotion management and committed to daily self care of myself on purpose, because if I don't take good care of myself, I have nothing to give to anyone. And it was essentially like, personally needed to have my bond to the earthly way broken. And for me, suffering was an incredibly effective mechanism in the to let go of the current path the way that I was doing it. Like I have a Virgo South node. It's very much like just get a hold, bada bing, bada boom. And it's like, yeah, but I'm a Pisces North node, and that's not time. So, yeah, it wasn't going to work for me, and I had to hit my head against the brick wall a million. I would finally let it go. But that job that I found in 2011 was every overload that I needed under the suffering that I was accepting for myself. So let's see here. The full moon. So what sign the full moon is. This is the gist of what we're trying to do to capture this bright, magical full moon energy that happens once a month. The first thing to remember, and I love how she gave like a whole section in the full moon chapter. If you get to the full moon, intentions. What then? What do you celebrate when you can't think of anything because you didn't do what you said you were going to do? She says, like, at that point, the fact that you're even like of your progress is how well am I taking care of myself? That's you tuning into self-care. And like even you showing up in that, even if you can't find a single progress to report, showing up is a milestone. And two, still deserves to be celebrated, even if it feels small. So, that's the beautiful thing about the lunar regularity. It's really interesting. It changes constantly. Like if you look sky every night. Like it looks different, its phases, but it's also like extremely like, to the day, like 2 weeks, you have a new full moon, 2 weeks later, you have a new moon, 2 weeks later, 29 and a half days. It's like a extremely reliable cycle. And so remembering that, just because you didn't make progress doesn't mean that you can't start again. And sometimes, like, if all you can celebrate is the fact that that's still something to celebrate, that's all we can do sometimes. Full moon reminders. I am proud of myself for how far I've come. I am like the full moon itself. I am full of light and I let myself shine brightly. Are no longer moving towards what does. I am worth celebrating, and my personal favorite, so I saved it, worth paying attention. Such good stuff. The full moon is our opportunity once a month to pause and celebrate. This okay, so multiple pieces that led to me like brought up in my conscious like right here, but one of those questions as far as like the full moon is what do you need to let go of? And an analogy in that book, The Full Moon, or no, like Self-Care by the Moon. The analogy is on the full moon, basically blossom, and you are noticing where do you need to prune certain your energy. You can thrive and blossom in continuously better ways to support my growth. And this reminded me of a term that I've heard a lot and I've used it some myself as well. And I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about energy vampires. This is a term that I very first was introduced to back in 2015 when I was running into what I would label an energy vampire. I was could not easily escape this person that just wasn't necessarily feasible at that time. And so there was like and had an effect on me that I had never, like, I just didn't understand like why it was affecting me the way it was. And so I went looking and I energy vampires. And I was like, huh. At the time, I went on a little trip. Like there was a little ego trip, a little bit. Like there was so much relief figuring out that energy vampires are a thing and that it is absolutely real, that you can feel like some people are like, it literally feels like they are, that is real. It's a real phenomenon. It exists and there's a name. And the relief at that time was huge. And now there was another piece just where somebody is newly coming to having boundaries around your energy and realizing that realizing that you take good care of yourself, because at the end of it, if you put up with shit and put up with shit and put up with shit and you tell yourself that it's fine, I'm fine, eventually you blow up. Eventually you hit your powering down because you have yourself. And I tell you what, in my experience, that power down moment, it happens that it possibly can, just to extra prove the point that like this is why you should be taking better care of yourself. Explosive, angry moment, saying things that you absolutely cannot take back, and wishing had that meltdown, but there's nothing we can do about the meltdown at this point other than recognizing how did that meltdown happen? How did this energy vampire suck the life out of you to where your battery was so low that you exploded on them? What are energy, like this is a very interesting topic. Energy vampires, there's a lot of names, different ways of subject, and all of it, like another common one with Cancer energy that I really liked, Valerie Tejeda explained it in her book, was shielding or protecting your energy from or whatever. So that you would need to protect your from these like dark forces that are out there that can hurt you. How she explained it, and like this gave words to like what never really felt right with that, and now it's like yes, yes. Okay, so she says like, yes, shielding, yes, protecting your energy and exercise of and that it's like around your energy and like you're totally safe inside this little cocoon of light that you build around yourself, and then basically carry that energy, that shield with you throughout the day. But the shield doesn't all by itself coming in. That's not the point of the shield. The point of the shield and the point of the exercisation is to remind you that you decide and what doesn't, what has to stay out. It's like that shield, and putting that shield on the outside of your energy reminds you that like you're responsible for protecting yourself. If you have a situation where this person is drinking, it's your job to don't go there anymore time with that person. Or basically the solution was that I said was, if you keep going to family functions like together with, and you share a car, you're there at the family function and they want to stay, and that happening where you want to leave. Personally, never share a ride to family's house. I would always drive. I would always make sure that like, yeah, I'll go, that's no problem, but like I'm going to drive myself, so when I'm not hitching a ride, I'm not allowed to leave when it's like shielding is, it's not some, and this is helpful in giving the words, but like it's not some magical protection that's like dark forces out. It's like you deciding not to settle for things that feel like forces. Like energy vampires, they are not evil. They are not forces. They are presenting you with an option. Do you want to be drained? And if you don't, then don't be around them. Don't be in a situation where you are allowing them to feed. And if there's a bigger situation going on where you feel like I'm stuck and I can't get away from them, that's where I would encourage you to like a third party, a trusted therapist, somebody that can give you an outsider's perspective, because typically maybe true in the moment, but at least we can out of that situation. And been true that like, oh, I need to be around this person. There's no, like another person might be able to help you find your exit or open up an option that allows you to see like, wow, I'm not as tied to this situation as I thought. That's where Cancer energy, like the tagline was protecting your energy. It's like, it's responsibility to feel what works, to make sure that settling for things that are draining you, that if they are, that probably there's some different structure type consideration to be made. Like I only take when I go there because I implemented that rule for family functions, my own family function, because I want to be able to leave what I want. Like during, they want to stay all freaking day and you want to go home. You had no license, you have no car, you have autonomy. But as an adult with autonomy, with resources of yourself, often there are pathways of uncomfortable situations that the real question is, are you going to make yourself stay and suffer, or are you going to let yourself move to ground that feels better? And everybody gets to for themselves. Everybody gets to make their own choices and to feel choices that they're making, right? Like if you know that when I go to this family member's house and I know for very long because being there drains my energy. It's like going like nothing is wrong, or do you make a plan so that it doesn't drain your energy? The choices that we get to enact ourselves. Same, my car is my safety bubble. I can always leave. Exactly. It's like give yourself the option, and that lets you do a lot more things. It's like that's all. And I also like, here's another just that popped into my head. It's like when, so it's in Missouri, it's like 2-hour drive. And I don't want to stay as long as my parents because they, and I can't. With my brothers, a couple, and like the three of them typically ride together. And so I like hit them. And basically, they like smoke cigarettes. I can't even get on a freaking like schedule about it. It's like one of them will smoke a cigarette and be done, and then the next one lights up, and then he's done, and then the next one lights up, and by the time he's done, this next cigarette, and I'm like, fuck me, like constant. And I can't do back in college and never again. I can't even be around them. Like one, I don't want to go with my parents because I'm not. Two, I can't ride with my brothers because I am not going to smell their smoke the whole way over there. I was like with my nose like out the window trying to get some clean freaking oxygen. What are the boundaries? Like, what are the things that are making you physically uncomfortable? And old Carly would have been like pressuring my parents to leave. They Old Carly would be like bitching at my brothers about put out your freaking cigarettes. Like, that's so gross. Like, how dare you smoke in the car with me? Carly is like, fuck it. Like, smoke your cigarettes if you want. Like, I'll drive myself. It's worth it to me to money and to have this freedom that is literally at any time, and it's on and on and on. Hello, how you doing? Oh my, your energy. The keys that Valerie gives in her book, one is feeling what works best for you. Two is knowing when do you need to retreat and rest. And three, listening to your intuition. I love your intuition is there for a reason. I was like, wow, what a concept. Again, like I spent so long talking myself out of my intuition and out of what made me uncomfortable and forcing myself to put up with shit that, and it's like finally when I give in to following my intuition, listening to my energy, doing what makes me feel best, it's like typically that puts me in alignment with like what usually it's not just me. Other Cancer reminders, you are allowed to rest and retreat when you need to. Remember to put the same care into yourself as you put into others. It's okay to go to the things that don't work for you. And remember, you choose how to spend your finite energy in each day. It's like it recharges our battery. A little activities, it's different for each one, can recharge our battery. And like we spend that battery, and we're looking at like, you know, on my phone, it uses way faster than just looking at pictures or on social media or something like that. So it's like understanding the same about your energy. It's like what activities drain me really, really quickly are actually like building my battery back up. And that would even be a fun exercise around this full moon of how far you've come is to be able to list out like, here are the things that I know drain my battery really fast. Build my battery back up when it's low. Not to say that you can't ever engage with the things on the draining list, and not to say that you have to do the things on the building list every single day, but even to just be aware and celebrate the awareness. Yeah, when I'm a friend, I'm an hour and then I need to be making, or like when I sit, it's just like I can feel filling with energy. Gratitude list, when I count my blessings, I feel myself filling with energy that was not. So yeah, like what builds you, what drains it really quickly. So their prep playlist for this week, 8th live stream prep playlist. There are a few different videos. I think I put that one of Julia in. I think I put it from her channel because like Heather had posted the video and then Julia posted like that same conversation. So I think I put the one from her channel. So if you guys do want to go deeper, you can. She has a ton of awesome stuff, years. And this morning, I only had a chance to listen to like the first 15, but Dr. K's video that he released is called am I gonna be stuck in a crappy job in my life, or like something like that? Like, that when you start listening to it, he has a really, really, really interesting perspective on just how he has changed. Like, basically, we are Maslow's hierarchy of needs at this time, meaning people on the planet are not concerned with surviving. Like, most people on the planet, survival is kind of like you're going to live a long, awful accident or whatever, but like survival isn't really the top priority. And so, because survival isn't the top priority, you can move up the Maslow's hierarchy of needs into taking good care of your emotions, good care of whatever else. And that top triangle on that hierarchy is civilization, which is basically being who you were born to be. Like, what is your purpose? What's your divine call? It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with, it's like, what is your soul and how can you answer that? So he talks about like how humans like just literally don't have as they used to, like by hand, like scrub it on boards and hang it on the side. And like we used to have to like chop firewood so that we could stay, and like used to have to do different things that like now we don't have to do any of that. Like living has made life simpler time, then we almost know what to do with. Like it's almost like time that's leading to a level of existential tension on the planet that is like ever seen before in human history. Because normally in human history, we were working to survive. So we didn't have to test. And now it's like you have, we're like so well taken care of, have no motivation to like they don't even, yeah, it's just like there's such security, like you're witnessing the downside of being like secure. And yeah, so like basically we're not trying to like find, how am I going to work really? It used to be about hard work. It used to be about like put in your and do a 12-hour day because, and he's talking about how it's not that these younger generations like can't work hard. They can work just as hard as anybody else. Like we're still human. We have all the same capacity. Older generations either. It's just they are less willing. These younger generations are less willing to work hard for no reason. Not going to happen. We don't need to work hard just to work hard. Secure that we understand like working hard is not necessary by default. Working out towards something that like makes your heart light up, working hard towards something that like is feeding your soul. It feels like you're answering a divine call on a level when you work hard towards those things. This is what I want to talk about in my mind. I have notes for is like the concept of retirement has never really made sense to me. And that's work the way society has been defined, because I am part of that younger generation that does not see a need to work for no reason. The only reason I would work and apply myself is because purpose for doing so. So like that's why I'm working is really valuable. And that's where, this sun in Cancer, full moon in Capricorn, I feel like it has a unique, like a very powerful, potent force, like cardinal signs to cardinal energy, like making things where nothing existed before. It's like a really potent energy for seeing like one, what is truly important to you? Like what does matter to you? What about? And then add value to that thing. And then if that's what your job is, if that's how you make money is by adding value to things that your soul is passionate about, why would you retire? Like, and why would you ever work a dead end job? And I'm paycheck to paycheck. And even then, maybe this is like my naive, optimistic, like this is if you're in a situation where you don't have enough time, you don't have resources to like fully 100% transformation, you have 5 minutes a day to, move yourself 1 meter in that direction, yourself 1 more millimeter. And That's like my heavy earth energy coming out. It's like if you will put one foot in front of the other and keep walking, you will always get where you're going. There is no such thing as cannot get from there. You will always get where you're going. That's where, like, I put another video on that prep playlist that is um, out of Dr. K's coaching workshop that he did. It's a free, like 5 hours worth over a free coaching workshop where he's training his coach, healthy gamer coaches that are like the ones who actually work one on one. But he's just amazing. I've watched it a couple times, and I watched this video that I put on there for the third time this morning, because in this one he talks about the different types. And so that is thinking about, like, what we're talking about is, holy shit, that was a really low flying airplane. Anyways, what he's talking about, or what we were talking about with like this determination piece, this perseverance piece of like, if you just keep walking where you're going, like there's you can't cover if you have enough fuel, if you continue to put fuel in your keep going in the direction of where you want to go, eventually you will get there. That's how he works. And oh, so he was talking about the different types of intent and how some types of intent perseverance and some of them will not. Good grief. They made another pass. They're coming for me. No, I'm just joking. So like if you are doing something, let's see, he gave like several different examples of like, if you're doing something because it's your duty, meaning like you are responsible for the other person. And so like duty would be you had a child, you chose to have a baby, and now it's your duty to keep the baby alive, hopefully, and raise it up. However, how guides you and however and all that, that's your duty, this responsibility to this outside thing. Duty is a very powerful motive providing for providing like term sustainment, like long-term perseverance towards duty is a really powerful should, another one where like basically you're aware that you should do something. That's a different kind of intent. Like I should eat better, I should lose weight. It's not something that you owe to another person. It's just a general awareness that you have about you would like your experience to be different. And that one probably has the weakest ability to support long-term perseverance. Side of like, basically your intention is to follow your passion. Your intention is to like answer the call of your soul. And there is something like very deeply rooted that you're satisfying with the action that you are intending to do. By doing the action, you're feeding something the sustaining long-term perseverance. So all of that to say, like, it does matter why you're doing what you're doing. Like he gives an example of like if you want to lose weight and your intention is to go to the gym because you want to lose weight and you're how down 100 pounds and I go to the beach and I'm going to be so confident and it's like Chad City over here. And then you go to the hard. It's miserable. It's like comparing yourself to everybody who's so much farther ahead on your path and now, or on their path, and now you're ashamed of yourself and you are out of shape, and so you about that and you're not as good as them, and then you leave and you're like, that was terrible, I'm never doing it again, because your reason of wanting to lose, seeing this picture of like how awesome it's going to be once I have lost, to like actually go through the entire process. So even a goal like a good goal, that's not a that are going to keep you going in the day by day incremental process of. So that piece of that workshop, I mean, whole workshop, all 4 of those videos. But that video especially, I think, is very pertinent to this full moon in Capricorn that we're coming up on, as far as really aligning the sun in Cancer with like other people think you should do, not like what society expects from you, but like deep down in your own personal heart. What what sets your soul on fire? What are you passionate about? Because what I'm passionate about, I have a few things. I was like I have like kind of two columns happening right now that are like both being born out of me kind of side by side. And one of them is owning authenticity and the other is my grocery consulting work and this. And neither of them is like feels in the other and they tend to come together like even my course for owning authenticity and then have another proposal for this grocery. So it's like, there can be multiple things that are important down to like what am I truly passionate about and what do these two things have in common? What does like being of spiritual service and what do those two things have in common? There is a huge potential for me to make a personal impact. I need to use my time and leave the world a better place than it. There is there are people around my owning channel that are resonating and openings content not to catharsis that I by making the content that comes from making my videos and doing my podcast episodes of that. And then on the groceries, it's like, I don't know if you guys know that right now, but like we are in a precipice of sorts that we have never experienced in history. So the baby boomer generation, I'm sure you're familiar. Baby boomers are hitting retirement age, and there are roughly 2.5 million businesses accounting for roughly 25 million jobs in owned by baby boomers. And these baby boomers are like trying to retire. And already in the last 5 to 10 of these businesses of transitioning to a new owner and including like in my grocery work, especially like, as Kansas, mostly what my projects end up being focused around are food deserts. So a community where you would have to drive at least 30 miles to get to a fresh food source where you can buy like what you can get at like Dollar General of like chips and whatever else. A Dollar General is better than no dollar thing else, but it's like so many of those stores that closed, like they added to and created new food deserts on top of the food deserts that already exist. And so one of the projects that I am working on this year, my grocery consulting side, is to do some research existing grocery store owners and why we're having such a gap between why aren't you selling it to the next generation? Why aren't you handing it over to somebody who can keep the business here and keep their store, let the access to this food? Why aren't you trying? You are trying. I don't know. But most of these stores are closing. And in Canada last year, where let's see, what were the numbers? It was like 40% of the stores in Kansas, these small independent grocery stores, which there are like 700 thereabouts, so are owned by people who are planning to retire in 10 years, and 70% of them do not have a plan for transition. So 70%, we're talking about 150 stores do not have a plan for transition. They are just like hoping for the and this is what I do. I go from point A to point B. I go from here's where we are, here's where we want to be. How do we get there? Where, these 70 that are wanting to retire and they have no transition plan for their business, are the best. They're hoping that something will magically come into play. And I guess that's me and other people in the out. Let capacities, our resourcefulness and our determination, our energy, figuring out how do I keep as many of them. These are not my businesses. I have no horse in this race other than I already feel overwhelmed a little bit in a good way by the number of food deserts that there are citizens in this country who live without regular access. They have to drive at least 30 minutes to get to healthy food. Um, I feel very strongly about helping to solve as possible. And then you think about like these baby boomers retiring and stores that potentially could close. And this is just in the US, right? Like this businesses in the US, all industries, not just grocery, huge potential between their businesses. They're just getting to their stride, their readiness. And it's like, I believe capable people who are totally able to go and run with it if the owner would put it up for sale. So that's my goal. That is what I'm passionate about, is like figuring out how to bridge this gap, how to get the store from owner so that it doesn't close and that the community gets to food. So I have no desire to work hard. I have no desire to like slave away for no good reason. And I really don't even care how much money I make. But when I think about like my intention, my destination, is like, where am I going to go? And then what is the path to get there? My destination is 10 or 15 years, half or more businesses that are about to fall, you know, is like these businesses that are going to continue because of whatever effort I'm going to invest 10 years. And I have no idea this. I have no idea how to solve this gap. People with way more experience have already been researching it for years. And yet to be tenacious about the things that inspire you. Bone, I am going to solve this transition. Sit there and like write a bunch of stuff out about this part of the puzzle or this part of the puzzle, and like that is what I'm talking about. Like we're not trying to just like clock hours on a time clock so like maybe we can save up enough money. I don't understand that mindset, like versus every single day investing our precious finite energy into the things that set our soul on fire. The problems, quote unquote, the challenges that feel action for us personally, like I can't save 2.5 million businesses from closing, but I put my effort towards them. And along with everybody that has, pieces of this puzzle, I'm going to help. I'm going to put on the table and I'm going to towards this solution because it is important. It will impact millions of people's quality of life in this country. So that's the kind of intention about, and that's the kind of intention we're going to work on setting in my program starts on July 17th. So super exciting. We're in the home stretch of enrollment for that. Maddie can put the link in here for us. So this, yeah, that's like really my goal in the program, is to figure out like, one, what are like care conditions, like how do we best take care of your unique energy? Because in applying yourself to the intention that you feel passionate about, that path going to fit like a glove with how your energy is now wired. So that to me feels like a huge relief that like, for me personally, like I have very low physical energy on a daily basis, all chronic fatigue syndrome, but instead that's what's going on, it's like I flipped it on its head and was like, okay, so if I only where I know I'm focused, I know I can do stuff for 3 hours a day, the rest of it is a total crapshoot, you never know. Um, but instead of being sad about the 21 hours that I can't use, I'm like, I'm as intentional as I possibly can about most out of these 3 hours. And that's like, when I think about being proud of myself for how I've come, I have gotten choosy and like over my energy and what I'm willing to spend it on, what I'm willing to let in to my space and my grid, consume or don't consume really. I took every social get on social media anymore aside from YouTube. Like, these things that I've done to alter the structures of my life to make sure that those 3 hours that I get every day that I can use of my ability. So there isn't, like, that's where hard work is so outdated. Like, just as it's like, yes, we're passionate about and you need to like pull out hard work like a tool to use in this one moment. It's good to have hard work for the sake of hard work. That philosophy has outlived its usefulness, in my opinion. And by the looks of it, a lot of the younger generation agrees, where we're looking for meaning. We're not necessarily looking for a paycheck. Let me see. So many people just do not have the ability to any decent store. Like, what if you're out there and old, disabled, homeless, without your own car and so much gas money? It's bad. That's exactly common is like uh, stay-at-home parents with small children. They're like, I do not have to load all my kids into the car and then unload out of the car and take them into the grocery store where now you're trying to shop. So like access to food, like basically in today's age, like yes, we need more stores, food deserts, and like delivery because they who genuinely do require often like there are I've heard store owners say, like, they don't wanna because, like, they don't have the time or whatever, and I'm like, "That's why you have them pay. That's why you charge a delivery fee that does make it worth your time. It's not charity, it's a business, and these people are often willing to pay a delivery fee is high keep tabs on them, and then 2, it's like, if you are disabled, therefore you do not have a car, that's money, gas money, car money, registration money, insurance money. That's money that you're not spending to pay a delivery fee to get your groceries. So it really does make business sense to like charge a delivery fee. These communities out there where there is no grocery within 30 miles at least, some of them are way, way farther than that. And there are about to be potentially a lot more. So that to me feels like such a valuable place to make precious energy. I am problems where there is a very real tangible impact that I personally can make. Um, I try not to spend my energy on things where there's no impact for me. Like I can spend time on this thing or with this person. Like there's people in my world, in my describe them like a brick wall. Like you spend time with them, you talk to them, and then you come back and tell you the exact same story. And it's like, didn't we solve this problem last week? Didn't we already face this obstacle? Like, did we loop all the way around? Time with people like that. I just don't because that's me spending my energy and not getting any bang for my buck. The ROI on that just doesn't even make sense. So yeah, I be a little bit more generous with it. But where I'm talking about, like, I got a couple hours a day at most of good energy. And if I spend it on a brick wall, then I don't have it to give to another impact. Irene, I'm very curious. Like, this energy feels brutal to me. Yeah, can you say more about specifically which energy? I would be happy to dig into that with you. Yeah. Hmm. What I will say about like especially this week where we had Mercury enter Cancer earlier this week. So at that point, um, that's a lot. Cancer can tell you like it's it's just not like the clear. There's like the mental clarity definitely gets a little bit like submerged underwater when you have Mercury go into Cancer, where you're thinking more in terms of emotions, like the volume knob on the emotions got turned up. And it just kind of depends on your normal state, your baseline, as far as like how much energy you spend on your emotions already, and if it's just a little or none at all. Going through Cancer season can be extremely that you can do to deny emotions during this time, which is as it's intended to be. They're trying to get through to help, like, help you take better care of yourself, right? Like, negative emotion feels bad for a reason. Like, it's trying to direct you to stop going that way and go a different way. Um, so yeah, like Cancer season time does pull us into a place of bringing us as far as messages. What are they trying to tell us? Um, you know, in negative emotion, like, and that's why I would really love to understand, like, what feels brutal or like what's coming up. Like, negative emotions, or really all emotions, are messengers. Okay, is how I've come to conceptualize it, like by listening to a few different teachers along the way. Um, that like when negative emotion comes, like when there are emotions that feel bad, that there are things related to our healing journey that are trying out. And when emotions come that feel really good, it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like a confirmation that you're heading in the right direction. Yes, please keep going this way. When I very first found Abraham, like all these words that I had known nothing about. She's talking about energy and emotions and the vortex and universal law and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't know what she's talking about, but something in here feels so good to me. like, like truth. It felt like energy in terms of like energizing. Like it felt like there was clarity that felt better than I felt before I listened to it. And so it's like, I don't really understand what she feels good. So I'm listening over and over and over again. Like eventually it kind of like sunk into my subconscious, where now like my general outlook is law, and it is emotion management. It is like reading the signs of that my energy is telling me so that I can navigate. And it does, it's not an effort anymore. Like when I used to listen to Abraham, it was like I had to listen to Abraham to get that lift in my, and by going there over lift in my energy just kind of got stuck up there. It just was like natural, and keeps getting better and better. Um, how I first noticed it, it was like I yeah, I didn't notice at first that my energy was getting better and better. What I very first noticed was a couple months into Abraham, something happened that triggered like a depressive episode. And the depressive episode was like 3 days long. What? Because normally when I start a depressive episode, it's like 6 months of like, you're screwed. Like, this is going to be months of like trying to dig and suffering and all of that. And this one was 3 days. It was like the depressive thing, like the trigger happened. The next day, I'm still pretty miserable, but I woke up in the morning and I listened to Abraham's gratitude list and I did it anyway. And the next day I did it again. And the next, and I was like, better. I was like, I don't really feel like that trip a few days ago. Like it's already over. And I was like, whoa, whoa. Oh, I think I'm getting better. Like I recognize like my low wasn't near as deep. I didn't go near as low, and my low was shorter. And it took me way less time to like get back up to like neutral and get back to a place where like I did have a positive outfall, and it took almost to get back up there. And so the progress that I've seen is like noticing that my depressive episodes, they were getting fewer and further between. They were getting shorter and shorter when they, and now to the point where I don't really have depressive episodes. I have triggers that bring up something in the moment, and I have processes that I are like almost in real time again, so that like the triggering moment is only And now I'm back to where I was, like trigger dealt with. But it started by like just showing up positive over and over and over, listening to Abraham because I felt better when I did it, and doing it over and over and over again. And the residual dividends of that is that you have your own available to you all the time, that like you have that resilience to get triggered and come back from it in just a few days, and derailing you for half a year, or to get triggered and come back for a few minutes. Like, to make that kind of progress, I mean, my God, like to look back where I started my self-care journey like 6 years ago, I wouldn't have even thought that that was like, I was trying to just hang on. Like, that's what I mean. I was like getting into suicidal ideation again when I went to therapy in July of 2016, and she handed me the deservability treatment. That's something that I would recommend to anybody who is feeling like their mix of energy is, give that a try, the deservability treatment. I have a video. Maddie, maybe you want to put the video instead of the blog post, since we're still working on the website. But yeah, the video is like a listen and repeat thing at the very beginning, and then the end of the video is me experience with the deservability treatment. But saying it out loud, like saying those words out loud, see if that doesn't trigger anything, because for sure, like what you got going on, if you do have like chronically negative energy. But for me, it was like the root of my chronically negative energy was my own lack of self-worth. And when I got a hold of this deservability treatment and I started reading that to myself in the mirror twice a day for like, as life changing, as far as like when I built my self-worth, everything in my entire life changed. So it is such a fundamental part of our foundation that like you cannot be happy if you don't have a strong basis of self-worth. Which is why in the that starts on July 17th, that's basically the first module that we're going to do. Like managing self-expectation and confidence is the name of that module. And the idea is that we are first going to look at self-expectations, because that was my issue with no self-worth and having these perfectionistic tendencies, and like punishing myself over and over and over again, expecting myself to be perfect. In order to find my self-worth, in order to find my happiness, in order to move forward, I had to let go of a lot of self-expectations that I was holding. Looking back now, 100% keeping me stuck in my own identity. It was like me versus me. I was winning. So yeah, I was on the same page, on the same team, and like both pointed in the same direction. Between the therapist handing me the design and finding Abraham, that was, slowly but surely like building up my self-worth, building up my ability to intuition, building up my ability to like say no to things that don't work for me, because that worked for me. I was definitely part of that was like self-care is selfish. I don't have time for that. I have too much. Yeah, that's, eventually it's like the only way we have a battery charged up in order to do all the things is if you charge the battery. And if you let the battery go to dead, then you can't use your, and we don't like act all surprised and mad at the cell phone when it down. We watch the battery slowly drain over time. And yet I know when I would power down from my own energy, depressive episode, or it's like I would beat up on myself, but I put the situation in the first place by taking good care of myself, by ignoring my own needs in favor of focusing on everybody else's needs and everything else I needed to do that had nothing to do with taking care of me and charging my battery. So it's an interesting time. Ooh, here we go. Hi, Cancer season for me is a nightmare. Every year, every July, I feel depressed, overwhelmed, catch myself going to the past, what went wrong, what I want to change, and tears. So like all of that, But at the same time, you know, like calling it a nightmare versus like, you know, like like an oil change for your emotional body. Take the old oil out and then put the new oil out of commission while it's in the shop getting its oil changed. But again, that is a necessary maintenance for cleansing the inner workings of your vehicle. So the tear, the depression, the okay, like I want these maybe one at a part, one at a time and tease them apart. Like over actually something that I talked about in the episode this past Wednesday. I don't know if that yet, but I reframe overwhelm in that episode specifically around this feeling of like I have things that I'm passionate about. I have so much inspiration. I want to do something about so many, and that's what's over of that. The reframe of that is of being overwhelmed and like all of this that you care about to like I care about so many things. I am such a deeply passionate person. I am so deeply inspired. My soul has such grand intention, the potential impact that I could be on the planet. Like there to be grateful for the inspiration that the emotions have for you. Like the overwhelm is my experience with mine is a slight misunderstanding at the human level where you can get to season you're just like immersed in the well of emotion that is always there but it's louder during cancer season and to have access to that well, to have access to source energy, intention and inspiration is a blessing. It is a privilege, it's an honor, it's beautiful, it's like I wouldn't trade it for I would much rather be overwhelmed than bored out of it because nothing is flowing, no energy flowing. Um, thing because you can, like, if you look in the atlas of Brene Brown's latest book, she divides it into categories like the first chapter, for example, uncertain or too much. And overwhelm is in there, but so is excitement. So we can choose. You can choose to like, are you overwhelmed? Which is to say, I'm underneath this. I'm weighed down by the weight of all, which is like a more kind of like Taurus standing in your power, like practicing that presence and that strength in your inner core of the moment. And in an earth energy type sense, there's only like, well, not that there's only one option, but you can only choose. From a Taurus standpoint, there isn't overwhelm. There's only like a whole table of options of like what you could be doing in this one particular moment. Like you can pick. And that's where, again, it's very Cancer energy to say, like, get protective, get choosy on what you're picking. Stop energy to things where you're not making it. Stop talking to brick walls. Save that energy and talk to and do something with it, or that renewed energy, that extra charged battery that you have because you didn't give the energy away to somebody else that's not going to actually take it and do anything with it. The other one, depressed, like, or sorry, going to the past is an interesting one. That's another category in that book, the Brene Brown book, Atlas of the Heart, where she talks about that category of like, you know, regret is a good example of that is something that's very much with the past. And that regret, as far as like human emotion goes, is one of the most productive emotions that feel. And that's awful to people who like right now because it's absolutely fucking miserable. And there's a reason for that. Like when we say, you know, negation feels bad for a reason, it's because, for example, the purpose of humans being able to feel regret is that you should not repeat the pattern, do that again. And the depth of the regret, the depth of like just the feeling of I wish I and do it differently and change the moment. Like you can stay in that cycle and spin in the self-punishment for your entire life. A lot of people do, or take that and you can recognize that, like, you know, again, a very Taurus recognition, or like what's the word I'm looking for? Realization. Taurian realization is that, again, like all you have is right now, like all your power. So if there's like it's like resting in peace, like if there's part of have not made peace with that, not wrong. It's like trying to teach you something about like how to move forward into your future differently. Like regret and nostalgia. Nostalgia is a fascinating one. Like if you do end up buying that book, Albert, nostalgia was probably one of my favorite um, little sections that she goes over, because nostalgia through like medical clinical trials where there would be people who had physical illnesses that could not be explained by any type of like physical test, like any kind of medical test. These illnesses cannot be explained with like scientific medicine, and they went psychological on it, and they defined it as a rumination over the past, essentially not productive. And again, like wishing that you were there. And the answer is, again, like basically the Taurus perspective of like grounding back into your present moment and realizing that, like, if there was something in the past really good that you wish you could go back to, like, especially as Capricorn, like identify that, identify why it felt so good, identify why you would love, right? Like that's really the goal of like that nostalgia. If it's good, how can I get back there in terms of create more of that for myself in my moment? And the other side of nostalgia is if there were bad things, if there was loss, or there was like, misunderstandings that never got to be sorted out, or like whatever, like you're ruminating in the past. And like the only place you have power is right now. Only changes that we can ever are to choose to engage differently from the past at any moment. We can explore those feelings of like, why are we going back to the past? Is it because it feels good in the future? And if we're going back because it feels bad, what are the personal changes that I need to make so that I don't repeat this path forward? And in my is a lot about figuring out like, what did I learn from this experience? Why was going through what I went through for me? What did it give in terms of this divine path that I came here to live, this healing journey that I came here to live? And once you've gotten that, once you can say hard, but it was such a blessing because it set me free from this and it gave me this perspective that made such a difference. And, like, I mean, I was on the verge of suicide, and it was honestly, looking back now, like one of the best brought me to that therapist who handed me the deservability treatment that changed my life. It gave me enough hope to be able to say like, okay, I'm going to try doing self-care all weekend. And that's what I was trying to do, was find guided meditations. And that's what brought me to Abraham, which, again, because we're suffering doesn't mean that like all hope is lost. Suffering is extremely productive. Like it can push you to be different. In your suffering, that means like your soul isn't 100% lined up with your experience. And that can be a lot of different reasons. And yeah, I mean, I'm happy to, like, if you have questions, if there are more, like a specific example, I would love to help you. Like, um, one example that's coming to me now is current reality. Super cute. She loves sand volleyball is the thing, right? And like a very nostalgic experience of like her sister and her used to live in Florida together, and they together to play sand volleyball. So much fun. Like one of the funnest things I ever got to do. And sister still lives in Florida, so still goes and plays sand volleyball. All tell Dolly and send her pictures, and I want to play sand volleyball. Like I want to play. Here in town, there's like, to like play that she could be joining or whatever. Like the path just hasn't easily unfolded itself. And then yesterday she got this idea and was like so excited because she is going to ask all the different store with her if they want to go on some Sunday night. It's got a net out there and whatever at the park here in town. Ask if everybody wants to get some people together and go play sand volleyball. And so that is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. It's like you can sit there and wallow in, I got to do this fun thing this one time, or you can be like, I do in my physical right now reality to create and curate this experience for myself. As the Capricorn full moon, access to being able to see like physical paths. So this nostalgia for the past can be incredibly productive if you let it inform reality missing. Let's just build that into your current reality, and then there's no reason to go back to the past because you have what you need in your now. Yay. Good, Irene. Thank you. And tears, oh my goodness. Yeah, flow. That's again like the oil change. Like those tears, they got to move. And that it's easier the more energy we have in Cancer, like the sun in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer. We'll have Venus coming into Cancer and Gemini. Mars will even like, we'll have all this Cancer energy like now, and then Venus will be like, but that'll be here pretty soon. But go into Cancer until like of next year because it's going to spend going through Gemini, like through Gemini retrograde, go through Gemini, and it'll get to Cancer in March of next year. So in March of next year, I am like, excuse me, how can we bring our action? How can we bring personal physical energy to creating structures and the self-care that like we ourselves. So that's exciting to me to think that like, we're setting something in motion here, but we're not ever intending going all the way full circle with like intentions are just there to help us feel better. So we intend to, take good care of ourselves, and we intend to work with our emotions and do all of like going to take really good care of ourselves. And then, we kind of like real life happens and you fall off of it or whatever. It's like, I do believe that well, there will be a couple things at the beginning of the year. Like we'll have Mars, yes, Cancer in March of 2023, but while the sun is in Capricorn at the end of this year and beginning of Cancer, which is one of the dates that I wrote down. Gosh dang it, no, I didn't. So I did write down the Cancer full moon this last year was January 17th. So while the sun is in Cancer, the full moon will be in Capricorn. Boost back on like, what is your intention? Where are you trying to go? And like that's the difference, having a vision for where you want to go car and trying to figure out, you can go anywhere you want. So where is that you want to go? And then the Cancer end is very much what is the gas in your gas tank situation and how many more miles can you do need to stop and put some gas in your car so that you can keep going, whatever the vision is that you seem to think. And going back to that Cancer, like the passion of your heart and soul of like what feels important to you that you would think like worth it to take care of myself so that I can do what is that like long-term intention that you're even trying motivating when like we talked about with the Dr. K, all the different kinds of intent when we have the intention intention is to make an impact. So that intention is incredibly easy to satisfy. That's the point. The intention is to help us feel better. So we want our every day, if possible. Like I want to make an impact. That's my intention. So basically, today, I do make an impact. Sometimes I make an impact over here. Sometimes an impact on myself. Sometimes I make it on Dolly. Sometimes I make an impact over grocery world. So I just doesn't care where I make an impact. I know that that's what I need to do. Make an impact. And as I go, I get really what are the pieces that I want to apply my impact towards. And that's where, like I said, like this grocery project of like trying to figure out the gap between here and here has been incredibly inspirational. And again, like has motivated me to a whole nother level of self-care. I've shared a lot about drinking journey in my relationship with alcohol. And here recently, last few months, I've been drinking a couple beers every day again. Then over these last few weeks, I've like pretty much when the sun went into Cancer, I just felt low energy. For a little while, I was attributing it to Cancer season. And I was like, I'll just rest and sleep and it'll be fine on my production. I'll downshift a year or two and not expect as much from myself. And if I feel tired, then I'll rest. No big deal. And then it was, well, today's day of no alcohol. And 5 or 6 days ago, when like something clicked, a little bit of an epiphany that was like, I'll bet you your physical energy will only, you're adding alcohol with your sleep. If you can't sleep as well, then of course your energy can't pick up. So like it really does like almost add an anchor energy. So once again, I'm on day 6 of no alcohol. And ultimately, like I love drinking. Like I love alcohol. I really enjoy beer. I like the buzz, I like the taste, I like the bubbles. Except I am not willing to give up access to my battery's charge. Weeks straight, I could not charge on my battery, no matter how much I slept or how many naps I took during the day, would not fully charge. It was like stuck at 50%. And I was like, I can't handle this. I need a full battery because I have work to do. And so alcohol, it wasn't like, oh, you shouldn't drink and be better and I should be different and I should be more healthy. It was like when alcohol into my system, it brings my battery down to 50. And I truly do need 100% battery right now because I have inspiration towards program. I have inspiration towards this grant that's starting soon. This is so important to me that I need a full battery. So I need to eliminate alcohol, at least for right now. I'm not disavowing it by any means. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it in the sense that like I would rather have. So that's the point about like shitting on ourselves, following some divine recipe supposed to be in the world. It's like real. And how do you like literally physically make that might help you to feel even like 1 millimeter better? Oh, I have a yo-yo relationship with so consumption of all sorts. Like, yeah, I'm a consumer. Like almost always I have, something I'm chewing on a piece of gum, or there's got to be like sensory stimulation like almost all the time. And for better or for worse, like that's just kind of how my energy works. But I have noticed that um, I used to say that my binge eating was the worst, like when I was bored. But now, like from where I see it just a little bit differently than that because I understand boredom. That it's like I'm way more in the overwhelmed camp of like overwhelmed by my inspiration. There's so much I want to do that I don't have enough time in the day. And that's where I'm at. It's not a boredom issue. And before, when it was a boredom issue, I can see how I had something clamped off inside of me where I was not allowing my emotions to fully express themselves. I was keeping them in place inside of me that then I was to digest the emotions. I was keeping the bad day, and with it, I was also keeping my inspiration of myself, and that's what created the boredom and that gap. I filled it with food and all kinds of fun stuff. And now, when I am inspired, like I am, I like it's not that I binge because I do still sometimes like eat more than I need, eating more for recreation than for, but it is like almost healing binge eating by allowing my emotions to fully, by allowing myself to get that shit out of my system, to allow myself to all come forward because with my inspiration. And when I'm inspired, when I'm creating impact towards valuable and I'm passionate about, I'm not bored at all. Like, I have physically like thinking like, what am I going to do? Maybe I'll go get those chocolate almonds out of the cabinet and start in on like, well, after I've had my fill of those, peanut butter sounds good. Maybe I'm in there. Like, it's just like boredom, just like, what can I eat in my house? And boredom is almost like an apathy or a lack of emotions that's like there's something that's not flowing, inspiration. And I do think like with a lack of inspiration, we try to fill that gap with a lot of other things that we hope will try to take the edge off the fact that we miss our inspiration. I want my inspiration to be flowing. Hmm. I'm pretty sure since finding your channel, I've grace. Oh, that is such an awesome reflection. Um, yeah, like, yeah, because like stress management, understand or hear more about that because again, I think that goes back to that territory of like self expectations. And so, yeah, I mean, giving yourself grace is probably the main tool for stress management. I think, again, of this situation Dolly had, which I'm pretty sure I have shared this story before, but essentially, she work with her to do list, and the store is busy, and her to do list, and left in the day, and she's seeing has still to do, and she's freaking out and is to like get frustrated with the customers for interrupting because she's like much work to do and has put all this pressure on her. Recognized like shit. I mean, this is definitely not good. Like I'm frustrated. My energy is all. So she hollered at them, like cover the meat department, and she went and sat in her car for 15 minutes and out like, why am I so stressed? What is so frustrating about this? And got to do, and there's this, it's not finished, and there's so many customers in there. And then it was like somebody coming to her and telling her, get it all. And Dolly's like, oh, but I have to finish the list. But what if you didn't? What if you didn't get it all done? And she's like, well, yeah, I guess whoever comes in tomorrow would. It's like, okay, so what can you do? And okay, well, I can definitely get this one done. And then if that one's done, then this one will be easy. Maybe I have time for this one. Okay, so do those. Do those 3 things and forget about the 50 that you're not going to get. Self expectations of having higher self expectations than you have the physical resources to deliver on. And then, I don't know in your experience, but like the stress is just that like beating up on your energy for not being where you really think you should be. But again, we can pile 8 people and then be stressed out that we're not able and beating up on ourselves. And then we eat all this shit, alcohol to numb ourselves. And then we wake up, man, I lived my life like that for a long time. And now I mean, that's where by Sean Acor, where he specifically mentions stress and how like a factor of positive psychology and like testing the resilience to figure that do you see stress as a threat or that's like knocking you out of experience? It's brutal, it's a nightmare, you're a victim, or or is stress a challenge? Is stress like a hurdle that's just a little bit taller than you stretch yourself and you get to witness yourself rising to new heights to do things that you've never done before. So your ability to see stress as a challenge that you are capable of rising to versus is a threat that like avoided or overcame, extinguished it. Like stress all by itself isn't a bad thing. It's like all into your body, like the stress hormone, like why we have stress, same as like why we have regret. Like it's a productive evolution of like our human vessel that we would feel stressed. And I think again, it's like first where do you land? Is it overpowering you or is it giving you a situation that you may not have known that you were capable of before that? And depending on how you see it is again how you're going to treat yourself that like overwhelms you in that instant of like big. That's something that's like, that's a lot of work. That's a big goal, the bigger, like a big gap to solve or whatever it is. You know, overwhelmed is there's too much for me. And notice there's like a judgment of self in that. It's a relative situation. Like the whatever's happening is bigger than I am. This equals overwhelmed. And then on the flip side of that is excitement. Like the same big thing, you're little, and recognize I jump over that. I'm gonna this big problem that I don't know how to solve. Like I'm so excited to be faced with it because I know I don't know how to solve it right now. Like instead of letting that overwhelm me, passionately engaged in a problem that I don't know how to solve because I know my tenacity. But so the distance between like here's how tall the hurdle is and I currently am, that's just showing me wow, the growth that this opportunity is providing to me given that I continue to veer through to the end. Like if I withstand out long enough to continue moving in that direction, I'll grow up to a level where I can get over. You can take one look at it and be like, that's too big for me, and walk away and never try. Like that's the difference between overwhelmed and are you excited for the thing that you're going to get to grow into, overwhelmed and you don't think that you can. Bet you think that you can. Like when you lay it out in terms like that, it's like, oh, right? Like if you think that you can, then fine, like walk a goal. It's not going to be a motivating goal over the long term anyway. Like in order for a goal to meet you over the long term, you have to believe you do it. You have to believe that you can get there. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to be like, if you don't think it's even possible. So yeah, stress is an interesting one. Overwhelm is an interesting one because they're not guaranteed. They're not as static as you know, I used to think. I used to look at stress as very bad and like to, you know, beat up on my workplace because it was so stressful and that work culture was so stressful and like they just it's so toxic. It's so stress is neutral. Just like every stress is neutral. And it's like how do you use it? How do you respond to it? How do you treat yourself in the face of this thing? That we absolutely can explore, Andrea, in our 12 Sundays together business program, because this, especially that very first module, like this is exactly what we want to iron out. It's like, you know, what is the actual intention to reach destination where we're aiming for? And then build up our resilience so that we can face the here and there, right? Like how can we be empowered around stress? How can we recognize when, like, what were those two words? Because there's a difference between stressed and, gosh dang, like blown, I think is maybe what she called it. This was like, again, in the Brene Brown book. And it's like, there's a difference between stressed out is motivating. It can be. It's like an adrenaline type experience, is what, you know, it's meant to help you survive through a stressful moment, to like push. And if you move, like you stay under stress for long enough, eventually it like blows out your gas. You know, you just like power down. In that, gosh dang it, I can listen to it again as far as like that word that she used for like basically your circuits are blown, you're fried. Like, and she had like a job in high school where she was a waitress, and they all just had a big difference between like I need you say is going to tell you like can you go refill the drinks that you take the food out to this table, like let me tell you like how to help versus like if the waitress walked into the kitchen and said I'm blown, that person's leaving out back for 15 minutes and there's no instructions out there to their section and you need to take care of what they were supposed to. They're blown and they're not able to help. Like at that stage you've passed where stress is. And so that again comes back to that of recognizing what works for you, where are you at on your battery, like basically my battery's at 2%. I can't do anything for anybody until I can go get 5 to 10% charge back on. That's the only way I'm going to be able to do anything else. So learn to recognize like when I'm stressed and like, ooh, like this is to the intensity of my moment in like an entertaining way, right? Engaging. It can be motivating. Or again, you can be under it. You can be like being beat up by it. And at that point, like Dolly, like take the car and readjust expectations. Like I'm fighting a battle that's not winning. And that's where you've lost your grip, stress. And if you keep going, if it will get blown and then again, or down and you can't do anything for anybody. Having a healthy relationship with stress and learning when to little bit energizing, and that's a good thing. And when has it gone too far? When am I expecting things of myself that just like setting myself up to fail basically by what it is that I'm expecting of myself? So I think one of my main intentions for the group coaching program is to set us up from the very beginning with a goal that is actually meetable, that is like that's coming is pure, but that's not exactly what I mean. Like an intention that goes deep enough to be able to sustain you and provide strength through the moment to moment stressful, potentially obstacles bigger than you are, like be pieces on the path that you bump into and you're like, fuck, to do with this. I don't know. It's like overwhelmed for the moment, like overwhelmed. And like I'm gonna go sit in my car and I'm gonna see like I remember her talking about the difference overwhelmed and excited. I can do this. Do I believe I can rise to this occasion? So, in a moment of straight up overwhelm, it's like, yeah, get yourself out to the car or to a trusted friend or whatever and figure out how you can bring the goal, the destination, the intention, think you can accomplish. Right. So, like, how do you get those two things back in harmony? It's not going to be equal. I mean, like the productivity of an intention is that it is different from where you are, right? It's like helping you to go somewhere different. So, be up here, you are going to have to like to move towards your intention, but it's like maybe the needs to come down a little bit. Maybe the goal to lose 100 pounds too big. And like in my mindset right now, I don't know how I'm ever going to get there. It doesn't feel possible. And that's so maybe the goal is I want to lose 15 pounds. And that's way more reachable. That's way more just right here. I have 15 pounds lost. Maybe then, like, now my goal is I want to get to 30 pounds lost. Mental pieces in that coaching, go through this exercise in the program with our goals. It's like, a lot of people that set goals, they goal because their goal was simply too big. It was simply too ambitious. And so he gives you like this half-half rule. So like whole goal of like what is your ultimate goal that you want to accomplish, and then as far as like what are the goal that you're working on right now, half, and then you divide that goal in half, and that's your first goal. It's just this little one. Because like that's as much as you're ready to grow right now. And then when you get there, you'll be ready to grow for the next one. And then when you get there, you're ready to grow to the next big goal accomplished. But you do fit into pieces that feel like I know I can do. I believe I can, because with peace, you're stuck in over and you can't get too excited. And if you can't get excited, you can't get like energized up above the stress where you go and see it as a challenge. Let this be, let it, urge development. Let me, figure out how can I do the thing where I say no to more things that are only draining my energy to like put towards my growth because I'm over, right? Like there's so many things that are important to me. And because of that, I get overwhelmed, but there's only 24 hours in the day. Again, I point you back to Wednesday where I reframed that into I'm so grateful to be like this overwhelmed by my own inspiration. Different things that feel within reach that I personally could create an impact on, like right now, today. There's so many options for how I could invest my energy to create an impact that I don't even know where to begin. And what a cool problem to have, right? I want to look at it. This is the longest one of these I've done in a while. Put things in the chat. If you have questions along the lines of this conversation, or like I said, where you'd like help finding perspective, like flipping, please let me know. I would be more than happy to do that. It's one of my favorite things. I find it very energizing, silver linings on different things. So yeah, if I can help you out, let me know. If you're building up your community, building up your self-development, greater spiritual service, I encourage you to group coaching program. The enrollment for that is open, clear up until we start on July 7th with the group we have. But the early bird price expires on the 14th. We'll raise the price to $222. That's the full bird is $177. Have until the night of the third, the night of the Capricorn full moon, for that early bird price. And say, like, the ideal candidate for this group, somebody who definitely has some call that they can feel. I can feel that there's more to my life. I can feel that my soul has something else, this other version of reality. Live it. Maybe I haven't started it yet, but I can feel that it exists. And so having that call that you want to answer. And the first part of the program is where I'm going to use all my favorite tools, and we're going to look at all of these different angles to be able to understand, like, the unique soil and watering schedule, and like what are of your unique energy, and how can we not know what they are, but also help come up with ideas, like Capricorn side, like how to build this conducive to you taking really good care of your energy. And then the back half of the program is tools to share your spiritual gifts, essentially. So like a teeny tiny crash on like business management, as far as the little side, that is so not my favorite. So yeah, of course it's like teeny tiny. If you need to help you with that, probably that person's not me. But I'm going to include just enough. So if that's all you need is just a little bit, then to go. But most of that, back part of the program are going to be other tools for like how to keep your resilience up, how to deal with adversity, are the shadows in entrepreneurship, being your own, not having anybody above you to make tough decisions when you don't know what to do, like you're the final decision maker. You're also the one that has to decide, like, was this successful? Did I do a good job or not? It can be a little bit challenging. Pick out, not, okay, here's how we get all the obstacles off your path so you have a clean shot straight to your goal. It's like, here are the kinds of obstacles that I'm guessing you'll face, something along these lines. How I, move around this obstacle here. I take it apart so that I can get through. Here's my tool for dismantling like this. And by those kinds of tools and empowering you to put those tools in your toolbox, hopefully there are no obstacles. Have to quit now. Like, you don't have to quit. There's all kinds of ways, like adjusting your expectations. It's like, you can't what? You're expecting this. I can't do it. Okay, well then just do this. Just drop your expectation. Just take one step instead of expecting your 100. Like, there are so many different things for being and keep going, to have perseverance, to keep putting one foot eventually to where you're trying to go. It may not be like one quantum leap and you're there all of a sudden, but there are ways to stay, to just don't give up. Just keep going. Just adapt. So it works better. So it works better for you. And, and hopefully my hope is that, starting with the unpacking ourselves sessions, we can find energy where we can understand, like in my example for for instance, like how I said, I have like 3 hours of energy a day. Like there's things that I can see in my chart, in my energy, when I look from different angles at the different tools. That makes a lot of sense. Like I'm really not wired to work and hours a day. Like that's just how it functions. And so knowing that and like live off that hook to where my expectation of myself is that I'm going to rest with these few hours that I have, and then I rest. That's me, professional rester, because that's 99 I do. If those couple hours, then it's just rest time. So the best part of hopefully what this program will achieve, like how to or modify the expectations you're currently working, they are achievable. So don't run up against an impossible goal and then you have to quit because you couldn't do it, wasn't even possible to begin with. So we're going to start there with like, man, is it even possible what we're setting out to do? And if it's not, then let's reframe and go again because we need it to be possible. Oh, yes. Wow. Oh my word. Dismantling and deconstruction. I've been doing this physically a little each day. The more I deconstruct the items physically, it seems to affect my energy. Emerald waters, please. It seems to affect my energy, like in a good way. Hopefully, hopefully. Because like, okay, so another little excerpt from Brene Brown's is when she talks about hope. And again, it's like, if you're going to, you have to believe that you, like, if you, like, hope in general, incredibly motivating. Like, hope that it's possible. Like, when you tip into you hope it's not possible, try less, you put in less effort. And when you're hoping, when you're believing that it's possible, when you know I can just move myself in this direction, eventually I'll get there, you put in more effort. So it's like, I feel like shooting yourself in the foot or self-sabotage like that to like let go of your big goal, like bring it down. Like, you know, I watched this weight loss who was originally for, and she sets these gigantic goals. Like she's going to lose 100 pounds, lose 200 pounds. And currently she weighs, I think, right around 500 pounds. So these, I mean, in her mind, like that's that because she really does want to lose like 100 pounds. So she thinks period is the smaller version. Like that is, and she, well, if I'm going to lose 100 pounds and she can, a couple weeks, and then she quits again and again and again and again. And it's like, yeah, I mean, that truly is one of the keys to success is like to have milestones of like, and now I can celebrate. Now I could, like, you can measure your progress, but the goal is all the way out there. Reach it. It's like a ladder where the 6 feet over your head. It does you no good. The first rung is 6 feet over your head. You can't reach it. There's nothing to grab onto. Really start climbing your way up there. So again, like in that, even focus on weight loss. Let me focus on I want to feel better. Good example with my self-care journey when that started, it was to cure my depression like I had before. I was like, I just want to feel better. I just want to do stuff that will help me feel better. And it's an intention, like I want to make an impact because it's not specific. There's a million different ways that you can make yourself feel better. There's all different kinds of practice to experiment with. But every day I can satisfy my intent. I want to every morning I show up to my morning time and count my blessings. I learn, I, play with my, I connect through my heart to how good I feel in this day, my intention for feeling the day, and sending out positive energy to anyone that I meet. And I do all of that in the morning. It makes me feel better. That's the only reason I do it. I don't do it count. And I did in the beginning. I counted my days. Motivating for me, again, from that point of having progress, to see your progress. So when I've been doing 30 days, now I have 500 days to like 600 some before I fell off the wagon. And yeah, daily self-care for almost 2 years, and I fell back apart. That was 4.5 years ago was the last time I fell off my daily self-care. And again, it was like laughable how quickly I fell apart without it. And so again, it's like, yeah, that's why I do it. That's why I do self-care because I want to feel better. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. Not sure why, but yes, definitely seems to help with energy. Never thought about it till you mentioned it. Ooh, well, that's um, as far as planting a seed and thinking about it a little more, like especially with energy, asking yourself, like, even going like which things help me to carry and which things that I do drain my battery. And that I have to change anything but this. Which of the things go on, which of the things go on this list, using your awareness around the impact that you're on your energy is incredibly motivating all by itself. Like I said, like I'm motivated to do self-care because I know for a fact that it helps me to feel better. So it's like I don't see it as spending time each morning or whatever. I look at it as an investment that like this is me going to the gas station and putting gas in my car. And that way I have G and my battery's charged and I can go along today or as long as I'm capable of going. Um, but yeah, there's definitely there's a lot that we can notice that can help us get clearer on how we choose to engage in. It starts with what things energy and what things take away from. Um, and I would say at the end of all of that, make a gratitude list that has everything, all the things that add to my energy, drain my energy, even the things that drain your energy, maybe especially the things that drain your energy. It's like so grateful. I'm so grateful for the energy like 6, 7 years ago that I get to decide what I let come into my energetic space. That like energy vampires, they only have people to feed on who let them feed on them. Like if typically, and if you don't, they'll go move on and they'll find somebody else. Um, and so yeah, like being grateful for the things that drain your energy just so that you can even be aware of how your energy works and you boundaries are because people have crossed and grateful to moving much. This has been so fun. My little computer battery is almost dead, so I can't be surprised that it's going to die soon. So I better go plug it into the charger. And I hope you all absolutely incredible Capricorn full moon next week. I would love to hear about it if there's any fun downloads that happen, any fun epiphanies around counting our blessings and taking stock of the progress that we've made so far. So until next Friday.